All right, so excuse the mess in here, but this is where I was able to pull in the Blackseries so I can work on it. And it actually rained last night, so it's a good thing that I did have a little bit of room, but there are tons of projects here. That's an LNTV build. That's a motorcycle trailer build. Underneath that, you can kind of see a subframe that goes underneath that, but that's neither here nor there. The things that I actually used to get this job done today are this ladder right here, because you'll need to climb up the back. That was very helpful. And let's see what we have. I have a jigsaw that I used to cut that piece off of. I also used a saw for a little bit. Jigsaw, probably not necessary, and you kind of have to be careful with it. Honestly, I would just use a smaller saw than that and you'd be able to get through with it, but you know, that's just what I did. Some knee pads while on the roof. Kind of got painful kneeling up there for a while because I did use the ladder to climb up. But then after I got up on the ladder, there's times where I actually had to step on the tires and lift myself up to get on the roof itself because I was doing that from the back. But depending on how you do that, you may or may not need that. Then I've got some Seika here, just 715 self-leveling. I use this to cover the screw holes. I've got some butyl tape. This is what I actually put underneath the roof flange, and I'll show that in the video. Let's see, I've got this vice grips here. I use that because one of the screw heads actually came off of that. So it's helpful having a couple of extra screws just in case you end up in the same type situation. And you will have to pre-drill all your holes. So I had a drill here and some drill bits that I used to get that done. This tape here, I was going to use that to cover up the screw holes, but I didn't. I think it looks fine the way it is, and I think it's going to hold. If I find that it's problematic later on, I can always put this on, but this works really well. I've used it on other projects before. Let's see what else we have here. We got a screwdriver, manual screwdriver. I use this to finish off a couple of things or start off some screws and things like that. For example, on the inside, I ended up screwing those in with the drill, and then at the end just kind of tighten them with this because I didn't want to go all the way tight with the drill, so I used that for that. This here is just a panel removal tool. I use this here to remove the die core, the old die core from the roof. This here, I just used the pencil bit to mark things before I cut them. I didn't need the actual, the rest of the tool itself, but I did use the pencil on that. This I used to transfer measurements from paper to the piece that I would be cutting, or just to measure different things. Soldering iron and some wire. I used that in a couple of places where I didn't want to use clips. Same thing with the wire cutters. You'll need a blade. I used that on the roof a couple of times to remove the old die core. You may also need a heat gun, just depending on how old your rig is and how fast or hard that die core is up there. Let's see, some blades, various blades. You'll need those to cut either tape or, you know, this and that. Safety goggles, always a must. This here I used to pry off the old fan. It was on there pretty good because it had started kind of rusting up there, which is weird for 2023, but I used this to kind of gently pry it up after I took all the screws out, and then the scissors to cut something here and there. And then this here, I just used this pick actually to scribe a hole and cut out the hole that I needed for the switch on the new fan. And what else? That is about it, guys. Oh yeah, because I had to drill some holes on the roof, there were some filings on there. I used this to suck them all up, and of course some electrical tape. You'll also need some assorted rulers. I've got one right here, probably something shorter than that, but definitely need some rulers. And I also have this adjustable square right here, which came in handy a couple of times. And this here, I just used number 14. I used this to loosen the nuts on the old vent because it had nuts attaching to the LED lights. So that was that. Some gloves, of course. And yeah. that is about it, guys. Not a difficult job. Oh, sorry, some birds. Not a difficult job, right? It's the first time I've ever done this on a Blackseries, so I wanted to be deliberate and careful going through it. And it took me quite a while to do it because I started, at the end of the day yesterday, about 5, 6. I stopped at about 1, and then I finished it off today. So 1 a.m. last night, or 2 a.m. last night. And then I finished it off today. There's a bunch of measuring to do it right, some things that you got to cut off. And just removing that dico on the roof can take you a while, especially if if you've had your vehicle for a long time, right? The older it is, the more dico it's going to take to remove that. And then what else was it? Yeah, just measuring, making sure you've got all the right tools. If you assemble the tools that I have before you start, I think it's going to make it a whole lot easier. That way you're not running around. So that's why I'm actually going to put this video in front of the actual job itself, so you can kind of look at it first and figure out what you'll need to get that done. But it's done now. It looks good. And yeah, I'm super happy with the way it turned out. It's actually cooling off a whole lot better in there now. I should have measured it before and after just to show you guys the difference that makes. But I guess I can still do it. I can shut it off and then measure the temperature in there, but I'll do that. The next project I think I'm going to work on is the composting toilet. I already got one picked out. It's OGO or something like that, and everybody seems to recommend, or a bunch of people recommended that, so I'm thinking that's going to be good. And what else? Yeah, that's it for right now. The solar panels are out there. They seem to work, but they seem kind of shady, so chances are I'll be replacing some of that stuff sooner or later. But I intend on filming all of it just to put some content out there. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of content. If there is, please share below, because I would love to watch some of these things before I get it done. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, oh, and the tape measure. I forgot to mention, you'll need a tape measure. All right, so the job today is put a MaxxAir fan in that 2023 Blackseries HQ19. And so we're gonna get it on. Not enough room in the garage, of course. So I was just barely able to stick the back in, just enough to be able to work on it. Let's see what we have here. So I just need access to the fan, and that's right here in the back. So I should be able to reach that and get this party started. So I'll grab a ladder, I guess, so I can get up there and kind of take a look at it and see what it looks like right now. And then I'll just, same style, I'll just film it as I'm getting things that are kind of interesting or things that are difficult. So here I am standing on top of my tires, and this is the top of the RV. Just has this typical RV putty stuff or sealant. So should be able to get that off without too much trouble since it's so new. So that should peel off just fine. And then we'll pop this off, kind of undo the wiring. There's a bunch of wiring here because this fan has a light in it as well. There's a quick view from the top. You got your solar panels here, and it looks like it's just those flexible panels. They're glued directly to the roof here. There's 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4. There's another one in the front, right there. Cool. Okay, so in the shower, I got to remove the screws here, and this is the first thing that I've done, is just remove the 4 screws that are in the corners here, there and there and there, and they're just square. I'll show you what that looks like. So that looks like that, so it's a little square. So I just used that bit right there, and I was able to get that off, and this is what it looks like inside. So we're gonna go back up onto the roof and start working on removing that putty or that sealant, and we should be able to pop this out. All right, for this here, like I was saying earlier, this is gonna come off pretty easy because this is a 2023, so it shouldn't have had too much time to get all stuck on here permanently. So I'm thinking I should be able to remove it pretty easy. Not to mention, when they do this, they don't use the best products in the world. So fortunately for us, for this particular moment anyway, we're able to get this off. And this roof looks like it's just aluminum. So I can't find my rubbing alcohol, but I usually like that for cleaning it up. So we're gonna test out some of this paint thinner, see if that's any good. But I usually have isopropyl alcohol. And here I'm just using one of these tools here. It's plastic, so it's not gonna scratch. So I like that for it. All right, so I'll just continue like that and work it all the way off. And then there's some screws right here. I'll take these out and we should be able to pop this out. All right, so here it is all removed. You can see, you know, this thing has already started rusting up here. Fortunately, we'll see what it looks like underneath the aluminum here. So this is obviously steel, you know, and it's rusting, and this is obviously aluminum because, well, I sincerely hope so, right? It is aluminum, I know for a fact, but yeah, you can just kind of see how that's all getting eaten up. And sometimes it'll actually cause problems when you've got two dissimilar materials like this. So we'll see what it looks like underneath. But I'm gonna get my screwdriver, and this looks to just be like Phillips. So we should be able to pop that off real quick. And in here, you got to disconnect the wires. So let's see what we're working with here. This is the main wire that's feeding everything, I guess. Yep, so this should be the main wire, and it looks like, fortunately, you can just pull these off. So it just comes out like so. And that is all the power, I believe. All right, so I got all the screws out, and the only thing that's holding it on now is just the little bit of glue or whatever they'll have underneath there, or sealant. So if you've got a tool such as this, it kind of helps shove that underneath like so, and then just gently kind of pry around the corners, and it'll just start coming out. Just being careful, you're not trying to really leverage it, right? Otherwise, you're just going to cause some dents and dings. So you just want to gently pry that out and just work your way around until it's completely loose. And then you should be able to just pull it up like so. And then I usually just go gently so I can see what else is still attached. You can see that wire is still in here. So we just need to find out where exactly it's going in at. Flip this around. You can now close this. There's no need for it to be open, I guess, but actually I'm going to use it as a tripod. So let's find, yeah, so I can just pull this wire out like that. All right, so that is my power right there, and this came out. So what I'm going to do now is just go through and clean this up so that it's all brand new before I put anything else on there. All right, so here's the prepared product here. And that is ready. I'm going to grab just some alcohol wipes and just kind of run it on there just to make sure it's super clean, but that should be ready to install the new one on that. And this is all the stuff that came out of there. All right. I'm always a little curious how this stuff is built, right? So here's what this looks like. I'm trying not to block the light here while I'm doing this, but this is where the shower just came out of. And if you're looking here, there's a little thin piece of aluminum. And then in here, this is another piece of aluminum right here. I'm assuming there's some foam behind that. And then this looks like some kind of wood of some sort. And then another thin piece of something over there. And then some more wood right there. All right, so at this point here, you're actually gonna wanna take that measurement right there because you're gonna need that to cut out the shroud. The shroud doesn't come tailored to every single vehicle, so you're gonna have to cut that off. So you'll measure here from the ceiling, put a tape measure right on the roof and drop it all the way down past that wood and past the shower. There'll also be right underneath the film, there'll also be like a 1/4 inch, I think, of shower panel or lining. So you want the total measurement from that top to the very bottom or to the inside or the roof of the shower itself. Hopefully that makes sense. So here's the MaxxAir Fan Deluxe, and here is the old fan side by side. MaxxAir Fan comes with a bunch of screws, which are going to replace those millions of screws that we took out. This is a remote and a manual, something that a Blackseries doesn't come with. But just my little joke there. But this is what this looks like in here. All right, so the shroud here, or whatever you want to call this piece, this one's a little bit thicker right there, but I need to figure out how to take the lights out of this. This is all the lights right here in the corners. So I need to take those out, and I think I'm gonna put them kind of in the same location in here. So screw some holes in here and put the screws, or drill some holes in here and put those same lights into that. So that's the next step that I need to figure out here. Okay. Okay, so light, switch. One switch is for the fan, the other switch is for the lights. Okay, so we can trace this. This switch here is going to the fan, and then the other switch obviously then goes to the lights. Okay, so we'll just have to pull these out, and these two wires here are actually going to go to the wires that are coming out of that right there. So that just needs to be plugged in here, then all the lights and the fan will work. So I need this harness. All right, pop this out, I guess. And then I get a tool and remove that. I'll need the light switches as well. Okay. All right, so to get to these lights here, there's a couple of screws that hold this fan right here, right? So there's one right in there and then one right in there. They're Phillips screws, and I just took those out. We gotta remove this. There's another screw in here. Okay, pop this out. Like so. And then we should be able to remove this right here. This just allows us to be able to work on that. The fan lights, because this is still kind of wired in here, and it stops the rest of this from falling out. So this is easy enough to just pull out of that. All right, and cut this zip tie. freeze these wires so we can ditch this guy right here safely somewhere, and then begin the work on this guy. All right, so here we go. I'm marking the area where I'm going to put the switch. I decided to put the switch that's going to control the light right here, and I'll likely do 2 holes right here for the 2 lights. There's not a lot of places to put the lights here because you've got this right here, so you can't drill over there. Well, I mean, you could, I guess, but I'm not interested in that because that's where the equipment over here lies as well. So I can't drill over here because there's all this stuff. So I think I'm just going to put 2 lights right there and there, and perhaps a 3rd one in this corner somewhere if it makes sense. But anyways, I'm trying to mark out, I've kind of just scribed my hole over here. These lines are just to guide me, but I've scribed the hole where the switch is going to go into, and I'm using a combination of tools. This is not really my favorite thing to do, but I'm just using these calipers to measure the clip itself to see exactly how wide it is and how long it is, and transfer that onto here, and then I'm going to cut that out. So see how that goes. All right, next step is I drilled some holes on the corners, and now I'm just gonna try to cut across the corners and join those. And what I'm trying to do is drill them inside of the lines so that I can adjust. I can remove, but I can't add to. So that's my process here. All right, so a combination of methods got this done, and it doesn't look pretty right now, but it's gonna look pretty after I start shaving it all off. But I ended up just using these DeWalt kind of wire cutters here because they just allowed me to put each end in a hole, kind of like so, and then just squeeze it and kind of break that apart. And I did the same thing on all the holes. It's not the appropriate way of doing this. I'm sure there's a tool or a better way, but that's what I'm doing, and it seems to have worked. Now I just got to clean that up. All right, so I got this cut and shaved off, and now this can now slide in there. It's still pretty snug, but that's what I kind of want. So that'll go in there like that. I just have to clean out all those lines and just use some alcohol wipes on that, and then I'll be happy enough with this part. Okay, so got a little pilot hole drilled here. This is where the light's gonna go, and then with a 3/8 bit, I'm gonna drill another hole right here, or in the same hole, but just enlarge it, just like that. All right, so that's good. And that should be big enough for our light to go into, this guy right here. Pop my wires right through there, and this should fit just like that. And that's what that does. And then next is the wiring. Well, put the little fastener at the bottom, that nut, where is it? Right here. And that goes down on the bottom, and that's how that's connected. So now I'm just going to clean it up here, just remove all the red lines, and we'll be good to go. And that's our light switch, and 1 light in. And I think we're going to leave it just like that. I tested the light out, and it's more than enough light in that bathroom. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. I think aesthetically and everything else, it just looks right. Anything else I try to do, like over here, there's this little guy right here. I think it's a sensor of some sort. And I wouldn't be able to put it, this is where I'd want to put it, right in that hole. So I'm just going to leave that as is and call that good. All right, so I got my 12-volt battery here just for a quick little test to see if everything is working. And got the fan just sitting out here on the table. And this is where I installed my light switch. So if I do that, that turns on. And the fan itself, let's get all these cords out of the way. Make sure nothing is obstructing it. But we'll just turn it on real quick and then off again. Okay. Just because it starts to articulate and move this open and whatever else not. But we'll turn the light on and show you again. Okay, so that's working. So the first step on the roof for the actual installation of the fan itself into the vehicle here or onto the vehicle is you want to put this flange down and you want to make sure that these tabs are facing the outside. All right, so that's the one side right there. And there's the tabs and that's the other side, okay? So they're not facing front and back, they're facing side to side, just like so, all right? Once that's done, you want to trace around this ring right here with a pencil, something I've already done. All right, so just draw around it, and then you can then remove this guy right here. I've also cleaned this area with some alcohol wipes just to make sure that everything sticks fine to it. But I'm also gonna just clean this out real quick, just give it a quick wipe with the alcohol just to be on the safe side. With these little swabs is what I'm using. I don't know where my regular alcohol is, but I'm figuring this is good enough. All right, so I decided to go with the butyl, whatever that word is, tape. And I like that because it just makes a cleaner kind of look. I'm still gonna put some tape and all sorts of stuff around it. Believe me, it'll never leak. But that's what I did here for the bottom, and I went ahead and pressed it before I removed the tape. It kind of sticks down, and then before I got that off, I just pressed it down on there so it stuck pretty good. And then in the corners, I went ahead and fitted it with a little bit more tape or overlapped it, whatever the case would be. And I think we are gonna be solid here. So I can take this ring and put it on there. And the beauty of this is that I can cut out. I let it overlap as well, so I'll be able to cut off anything at the ends that is excess. So you can see it's a clean look, better than that Sika that I was gonna use. I may still use this to cover the screw holes, or I'll use that tape right there. Just depends on how I feel. I've done it both ways and I've never really had one leak, but you're supposed to check your roofs anyway, so it's not like any one of these solutions is like a forever solution. So I'm gonna go with whatever I feel like, and this is what I feel like right now. So next step is to screw these in and yeah, get it on. There should be some screws that came in the kit. The hardware that comes with the kit is some of these connectors here and 4 screws. I think these are the ones that actually go into the sides and hold the fan onto the roof flange. And then you've got a million of these, and these are the ones that we're about to put in these holes right here. So no self-tapping screws in here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to drill a couple of holes like I've done with this one, put a screw in, drill another one like I've done with this, put a screw in, and I'm going to do another one in the corner just to kind of hold it in place. And then at that point, I'll be able to just drill the rest of them. I just don't want it moving around on me while I'm trying to drill. So I'll put these here to just kind of hold it in place, at least 2 of them. Why they didn't provide self-tapping screws, I don't know. Okay, that's the finished product right there, nice and clean, with a little bit of tape sticking out. Okay, now I just got to put the cover on, make sure it's not pinching the wires, and drop everything, all the wires inside, and then all the other steps. Well, I got to screw in the screws that go into the side, which is going to be these guys right here. Okay, as for the wiring, before I put all this stuff away, I still need to figure out a fuse, which I'm going to have to do another day. I'm not quite sure the amperage of this LED light here. I'm thinking like a 2 amp fuse should be able to do it, but I still don't have a fuse on that yet. But the way this gets wired, like I just pulled some of these wires that were on the old system, right? Like you remember this wire right here, this is the one that was plugging in before, and I just slipped it out of these two connections right here. So I'm just gonna slip that back in. So I just cut that off and put that on there. And the way the switch works is there's a couple of wires coming out of the switch, right? They're both red. You can use either of those red wires. What's going to happen is that if you flip them, when you push the on button, and maybe in the on position with the light on, or in the off position with the light on, or vice versa, you know what I'm saying? So both those wires will work, but I would just, the way you can just test it to make sure that when you depress the on side, that you're actually having it be on. So you can, what I did is that I just plugged it into a 12-volt battery, and I just kind of messed around with it for a while until I figured it out. And that's how I chose which of those red wires would go to the hot, and which one would go to the fuse or the light. The first one goes to the black wire, so you can see how it's connected with the black wire right here, and the black wire is just the wire coming from here. Okay, the second one that's in this connection right here is the positive wire that's coming from the vehicle, or from the van, right, or from the caravan, and that's that one, or from the camper. That's that one right there, and that's this. Okay, this one here is ground, this blue one, and that connects to the white ground wire, just like that. Okay, and then the other ground wire goes again right there. It's that blue wire, so it goes to the battery or to the power coming out of the camper. And then the light itself has two of the world's thinnest wires. Okay, so one of those wires goes to the negative right here. Okay, the black one. So that's going to the negative. I just joined it with the negative right here. And then the red one, which is this guy right here, just joins with the other wire that's coming from the switch. That's it. Sorry, I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So that's the wiring situation. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll try to remember to put a little diagram on here of how I did that. But still missing a fuse. The fuse would go on the positive wire on that light switch if you wanted a fuse for this little LED light. And I think that's about it. I'm going to try to clean these up a little bit and then drop that in that hole. The very last thing to do here before you put this cover on, I've got the wires connected here, but is you want to make sure that you put some silicone over, or not silicone, but some sealant over these bolts right here. So I'm going to do that right now, and it's not a whole lot, just enough, just in case there's a leak in there. See, this is why I do not like this stuff. It's just so messy and it goes everywhere. This just ensures that there's no leak through the bolts or through the sides of the bolts. I hate this stuff. All right, I better do it with my right hand, but that's the idea right there. So the final step before you drop it in there, you want to open it. So I've gone ahead and opened it using that little switch right there. It's not powered yet, so I just turned that knob and that'll open it up like that. And then I can now sit it in there, watching the wires, making sure it's not pinching any of them. All right, and the final product installed. All right, magic or fireworks. Here's a battery disconnect switch. All right, Battery disconnect switch is on. Some power over here. Main power. All right. Everything is running. Fan is blowing in there. Now we just have to test this guy. Can we turn the light on? No. Probably need to turn the lights on here. Vanity light, ceiling light, shower light. So let's try vanity light. Okay, that works. Ceiling lights, shower light, and fan is the third one. So we'll turn that on. And that just closed the cover. So that's working. And then the light switch. That's working too. Let's turn off some lights so we can see how bright it is in here. So hold on. All right, I tried to make it as dark as I could in here. We're in the bathroom. We're gonna turn on that shower light and see how bright that is. So yeah, plenty bright to be able to shower here with just one of those LEDs. So I think that's gonna be fine. And then you can always leave that on so that it turns on with the switch. So, or you can turn it on and off by itself. And then the fan itself, you can turn it on right there. All right. It's already feeling cool in here. We can turn it back off. All right. So the only thing that's left in here, and I'm going to do this tomorrow, it's already 1 a.m., but the only thing left in here is to put in the shroud, but that has to be cut a little bit so it fits properly. But that's about it. Till tomorrow. Peace. So for our next step, we need to cut this guy right here. This is the trim piece that goes on the inside. And we're gonna need a couple of measurements. The first one is gonna be that measurement that we took. I already have mine, but when I took that measurement, as a matter of fact, I did that from the roof. So imagine the fan's not on, you're hanging your tape right on the roof and dangling it down. So you want that measurement to not be to this edge. Mine to this edge right here was 2 5/8, but I need to add another 1/4 inch to get down to the bottom of this right here because the flange sits on the shower panel and not necessarily the thickness of the roof itself. So I'm going to need to add another 1/4 inch. That puts me at about 2 9/16, I believe. I'll correct it in the bottom here if that's not right. But 2 9/16, and then to that I want to add 1/2 inch because you're supposed to do that when you cut that trim piece. So that puts me at 3 1/16, I think. I hate all these fractions. But so we'll take that measurement and we'll use that to mark this. Now you take that measurement that you have. Mine, for example, is 3 1/16. So I measure from the bottom here. So this is the lip, not from the top, but measure from the bottom and get that number right there. And then just mark it, right? Just measure, put a tick. You can see a little tick right there, a little tick in the center, a little tick at the end. And then at the end, I just get a ruler and I just kind of mark it all the way across. So you want to make sure you got that twice, measure twice, cut once, they say. But you can see I've marked that all the way around. Now I'm going to cut this part off and throw away this half. And this is what stays. All right. And you can cut this with just about anything. I just have this saw, so I'm going to use that. I also have some power tools, but I think this is going to give me slightly more control. So I can place this right here on the corner, right on the line, and the idea is to just keep it on the surface and not try to cut too deep. So I'm going to just mark all these corners, and I'm going to try to use a jigsaw for the rest of it. Or a Dremel. All right, so I kind of have it started, and I could keep going like that, but I'm curious to see if I could use a Dremel or something like that to speed it up or do it a little better. There's quite a bit of tolerance, so I'm not worried about staying on the line necessarily a whole lot, but let's see what a power tool can do for us. All right, we'll give this jigsaw a whirl. All right, that does work. It's not, it doesn't leave the best edge on there. Maybe it could just be the blade that I have on there or the saw that I have on there, but it does make slightly quicker work of it. So I'm gonna just keep going with this. I can always try to smooth it out later on, but not the most ideal tool, I don't think, but it does help that I started these holes here with the saw. So I can just put the bit right in there, or the saw, and then just go like that. So I'm gonna just finish it off like this. And you want to watch your fingers while you're doing this. This is not safe at all, right? I've got my hand underneath here. You could easily chop a finger off. So I would not recommend this at all. I think just a saw and just going at it nice and slow will get you safer, better, maybe even results. not horrible, but not the best either, but you know, it's cut now. I can always smooth it over. It doesn't matter a whole lot because it's covered up, but I'll still just clean it up just because, I don't know, that's how I am. But yeah. All right, got that cleaned up a little bit. And you don't see that part, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot because that's gonna tuck right in there. And now we just have to fit it in there with one hand while holding the camera. I'm sure it's gonna go great. All right, had to put the phone down for a second, but now it's in, and it actually goes on the inside of that trim that you can see in here. So it doesn't go on the outside, it goes on the inside of this, between the piece, this plastic piece here, and the other piece. So this is not against the wall of the RV, it's between this thing and the wall. I hope that makes sense, but this is not against the actual wall up there. It feeds into the groove that's in this piece right here, all right? So the fan itself, this feeds into the groove that's on that. All right, that's where this shroud goes, or this decorative trim, or whatever you want to call it. But that's set up, and that looks good. Now I just have to put those flat head screws in. And ladies and gentlemen, this is it. It's in, and it looks good. So for these holes here, I ended up having to pre-drill them again. I just used a 3/32 bit, or just a small bit, to get those drilled and then put the screws in. You can do it without it, but honestly, I would just drill it first, just so that you're sure you're not ripping the wood apart in there. So looks good, and let's turn it on and make sure it works. Let's get some power, I guess. All right, let's turn this guy on. Shower number 3. Okay, and it just made its little beep. Switch the light on. That works. Turn the fan on. And the last thing I need to do, I need to put the cover on this, because the cover is actually not on there, but that works just fine. And this is the cover here. The cover comes off just so you can clean it up. And I'll just turn that off and put that back on. And just like that, the first mod is completed. I got the trim piece back on there, or the mesh piece back on there to keep the bugs out. And it does look good. Turn it on. It's kind of warm in here. We'll see if it makes a difference right away. Okay, so right now it's sucking air up. I can also have it where it's bringing air in, so let's rotate that. All right, now it's blowing air in. And yeah, that does feel good. Very nice. My first little mod completed, and that's pretty exciting. Not a difficult job. Oh, sorry, some birds. Not a difficult job, right? It's the first time I've ever done this on a Blackseries, so I wanted to be deliberate and careful going through it. And it took me quite a while to do it, because I started, at the end of the day yesterday, about 5, 6. I stopped at about 1, and then I finished it off today. So 1 a.m. last night, or 2 a.m. last night. And then I finished it off today. There's a bunch of measuring to do it right, some things that you got to cut off. And just removing that dico on the roof can take you a while, especially if you've had your vehicle for a long time, right? The older it is, the more die core it's going to take to remove that. And then what else was it? Yeah, just measuring, making sure you've got all the right tools. If you assemble the tools that I have before you start, I think it's going to make it a whole lot easier. That way you're not running around. That's why I'm actually that's why I'm actually going to put this video in front of the actual job itself, so you can kind of look at it first and figure out what you'll need to get that done. But it's done now. It looks good, and yeah, I'm super happy with the way it turned out. It's actually cooling off a whole lot better in there now. I should have measured it before and after just to show you guys the difference that makes, but I guess I can still do it. I can shut it off and then measure the temperature in there, but I'll do that. The next project I think I'm going to work on is the composting toilet. I already got one picked out. It's OGO, or something like that. And everybody seems to recommend, or a bunch of people recommended that. So I'm thinking that's going to be good. And what else? Yeah, that's it for right now. The solar panels are out there. They seem to work, but they seem kind of shady. So chances are I'll be replacing some of that stuff sooner or later. But I intend on filming all of it just to put some content out there. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of content. If there is, please share below, because I would love to watch some of these things before I get it done. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Yeah. Oh, and the tape measure. I forgot to mention you'll need a tape measure. But that's about it for right now, guys. Thanks. So that's about it for right now. So that's about it. That's the installation done. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody out there. Until then, peace.